All righty. Friday, April 10th, 7/19, 2026. And we're pretty flat overnight overall. Like a lot of crazy price action. We will fire it up here. Yeah, figured that was going to happen sooner or later. So we got assigned. I knew that was going to eventually happen. So it looks like I got assigned last night. Yep, I got assigned in Oracle. I had this put spread that was kind of like rolling and rolling. And then look, I'm going to come right out. This is kind of the, this is the downside of these tasty trade methodology, I will say. It has a dark side. I'm not going to question it. Look, it's got a lot of good things as well, but, this is one of the dark sides of it, is that when you are in a position that you are kind of rolling, and it happens to be in the money, you have a likelihood of getting assigned. And it does happen. I mean, it's not the end of the world. My account is now overdrawn by looks like it's about 17,000 or so. I mean, it's easily fixed. You just go in. What I'm going to have to do is now go in and sell this garbage. Again, not a big deal. I've done it before. So now I'm actually own 100 shares at 220. Yeah. So, look, I get it. Shame on me. I mean, I shouldn't have been, but I was living the dream. It's what you do. There's sometimes you do it, sometimes you don't. I decided to just kind of hang in there with this one. And it happens. So, this is what it is. So what I'm going to have to do today is when the market opens, I'm going to have to sell this 100 shares. I mean, I could put money in my account and buy it. I don't really want to own it at 220, to be honest. I'm okay with the loss. I've already eaten it already. Now, what I could do too is, in order to neutralize it, I could very easily exercise this, right? And by exercising this put, it will basically negate this. But if I exercise this put, they're going to charge me an exercise fee, like $5 or whatever it is. And at that point, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't make much of a sense. And Oracle really isn't moving much anyway. I mean, if it was, maybe if it was down even more or something, I would worry about it. But with that being the case, this shit happens. It seems to happen. I have to be honest. And look, I mean, I'm trying to bash Tasty Trade, but this seems to happen an awful lot. Now, look, this one was so in the money, right? This was so deeply in the money, like this short put, that it was bound to happen, and I knew it was going to happen. I mean, so I don't really blame Tasty Trade for this one, but I do have to say, as far as assignments go, I have gotten assigned more times on options from Tasty Trade than I ever did in the almost 15 years. Well, it's Thinkorswim, TD Ameritrade / Schwab, which I've been at since 2008, I think. So, in that time, almost 20 years, you're calling it, I have not nearly gotten I got double the amount of assignments at Tasty Trade with very similar trades because I trade these both accounts. I've traded them exactly the same. I get way more assignments in Tasty Trade than I do in Schwab. And, and the brokerage firms will always tell you that, oh, it's not up to us. It's random. Fuck you. It's not random. Shut up. Nothing's random. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. It's not. It's random because you're trying to tell the public it's random. It's not. It's not random. So anyway, whatever. So just letting everybody know, look, this is the dark side of what happens. And as you can see, I don't have the cash in here, so I'm either going to have to liquidate something else to raise cash to own this, and I don't really want to own it. I mean, part of me says, like, all right, maybe I do own it, and then maybe I turn around and start selling calls on it. But fuck, man, I'm going to have to make up, at 220, unless I want to hold on to this for the next 5 years, which I don't. Do I want to start selling calls on this? Am I really going to, it's going to take me from now to Methuselah to fucking make that up. So just easier to just blow it out, get rid of it, and have a nice day. So anyway, that's what's going on in my account today. And I'm going to have to work on that one when the market opens today. So, the easiest thing to do here would just be to do this, do a position, likely do it as I don't even know if you can do it as I don't believe Tasty Trade. I'm not aware of Tasty Trade even letting you put in a market order, which I think is weird because I got two things highlighted. I don't recall them having, it's all limit price. That's a good call. Like, I don't recall, like, I could just outwardly just look and post this up. I could even sell this now at 8 o'clock. Well, 8 o'clock comes in extended hours. I could probably just blow it out too. But, then again, it doesn't matter. Again, and it's not like it's 160,000. Like I'm overdrawn that much. It really won't even be a margin issue unless I hold it past 10 o'clock. That's when like the margin clerk will start to like get involved and probably start calling my phone and sending me fucking hate mail. And, we're going to be forced to do, meanwhile, there's fucking people with fucking $1 billion worth of fucking margin, but they're worried about me with my fucking 16 grand. Anyway, that's what goes on. So just be aware of this shit, folks. It happens, and I never see anybody fucking talk about it. That's what I think is fucking crazy. I never see anybody fucking talk about it. But there's shit that happens. And so be aware. Like when you have, and if you're a knucklehead like I was, which I was a dope, right? I was hanging in there with this, and I was quite amazed as this thing was kind of tanking. No, be honest, like just like being fully transparent here. I was amazed that this thing didn't get signed earlier. I was quite amazed that I've actually been able to roll this a couple of times and kind of avoid assignment. So, it's quite miraculous. And then you can see, as much as the law says it's 8,000, when I go and if I were to sell this put now, my overall loss here would only be, less than $1,000. So, is it that horrible? No, it winds up being about $800. So this looks fucking horrible when you look at it on the surface, like, oh my God. But, if I were to now, which I'm probably going to sell this put now because it's not really worth hanging on to it. Unless Oracle continues to tank, but at what cost, right? It continues to tank. I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it does. It could very easily go up and then chew away all of this at this point. So anyway, it won't look as horrible as it is once this is all cleaned up, because you can see the difference between this and this is less than $1,000. And so it winds up being the exact amount as my max profit on that trade, which was about 800, or my max loss. My max loss on the trade was like $800. So again, don't panic about it. It is what it is. Just deal with it and move on. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there, because I just went in here, and as soon as I saw this, did I saw it or I seen it? I always get confused about that. I'm not an English major, as you can tell, nor a language expert. In fact, I'm barely able to speak normal English. Right? So you look at, as soon as I saw this today, I was like, oh boy, I got assigned. I mean, I knew right away. I was like, I knew. And I usually keep about 11 grand. I had about 11 or 12 grand in here in cash. Yeah. So anyway, that's enough of that shit. So that's what's going on in that account. And now let's go off to the charts. Now it's going to look a lot different today. I've been working on this config for a while. You might be familiar with this. Oh, we don't want that. Might be familiar with this. This is my more traditional layout, but I've been trying to get away from the standard red-green setup of my charts for quite some time, and it's really nothing more than just kind of like a change in psychology a little bit. I feel like I've been looking at red-green charts for a long time. And what really turned me on to it, quite honestly, is when I started using these Lucid. This is Lucid. And I started using these Lucid charts, and these were blue and red. And I just kind of started feeling right. I don't know why. It just started feeling right. It felt a little cleaner and less, I guess, threatening. Meaning like, blue. All right, the red is red, but right, the blue not being like, oh, it's green, it's up. Just different. And I've seen other folks use the red and green. And so I decided to make some changes and go this route. So, I'm going to go with these from here on in, just because they feel a little bit more comfortable, honestly. I don't know why. Again, maybe it's the blue color. It's a little more subtle. And I'm going to continue to keep the red. And then also in my volume profile, I kind of switched it up here too. Because rather than seeing like the peaks and the valleys, especially on these shorter time frames, changing this up, and this is another thing that happened to me, and I changed my Top Step X platform as well. But this format came right out of the box on my Lucid charts, and I really liked it. I was like, wow. This is the visible range profile. And what I like about it is that I'm only using a limited, see, the number of rows is 24. Here's the setup. The number of rows is only 24. I'm looking at Delta. And what I found was very, I guess, at least intuitive, especially on these shorter term time frames. I still like the old profile on the longer term, like when you're talking 1 hour, 4 hour. I still like the more fine grain, but on the shorter term, I like the fact of being able to see the net delta in those bands. And having only 24 prints in here gives me a good idea of, look, net sellers, net sellers, net sellers, net buyers, net buyers, net buyers, and it gives me an amount. Like, I'm not so concerned about the amount as much as, like, look, I kind of see now where this thing is actually building. And then I can, if I'm watching a trade, I can see, like, are buyers coming in or not? And I don't know, I just kind of like it. And it's, like, better to me than looking at the tape. I really never liked watching time and sales. I always kind of annoyed me, as I always felt like it was just too busy, and there's no way unless you're filtering it. Anyway, I just found this to be a lot cleaner representation, especially, again, as I mentioned, on the shorter time frames, the 5 minute, the 100 tick. When you're starting to look to get into trades, or you're finding an area that looks interesting, and then you start to hone in, like, look, there were net sellers here last time, and they got absorbed or whatever. You know what I mean? So that just, looking at that, I kind of like it. So I did make some changes just to let everyone know. I still have the old format, which I'm going to always refer back to when I'm using those longer time frames. So when I'm using like the 1 hour and the 4 hour, I'm still going to use these because these actually print a much nicer, cleaner profile. And you'll see if I do it here and I do like a 1 hour, it's not as clean. It's a little right? It's much choppier, right? And you just really don't get that distinct level of, actually I'm looking at the wrong, if I looked at like things, you'll see it's just a little more choppy, and I kind of like the smoothness of the other setup. Even though it's representing the same thing, to me, I can actually see a little more of the divots and peaks here with a little more granularity on the longer term. So I'm going to be using both. Just to let everybody know. So anyway, with that being said, we're going to start right off with the NASDAQ. And I am going to get rid of that. NASDAQ has been relatively, I'm not going to say strong, but very resilient overnight. And I'm going to get rid of some of these. I drew some lines last night. But very resilient last night. I do think we are getting into some areas of some pretty decent resistance. Here's the 4 hour on the NASDAQ. You can see we have been, if you're looking at trends, we are embarking on a bit of, or at in the middle of, a true possible trend change here in the trajectory of the NASDAQ, where I think we may be actually changing from, sell the rip to buy the dip. I don't know if we're completely there yet. I know there's a number of folks saying that we are. I don't know if we're there yet. I think we need to get through today, which I think today is going to be I think there's some numbers coming at the bottom. Isn't there like inflation data or some bullshit? CPI's coming out today, so that's going to be an impact. I'm assuming it's going to be a bit hot just from the oil prices. It's going to be a bit hot. So I'm expecting it maybe to run a little hot. I think if it's not as hot as expected, and I don't even know what's expected, what is it, 0.2? Like this hasn't been revised, right? What the forecast is this forecast was made before the freaking war. So you would think they would say like, all right, look, we got a war going on. Maybe that forecast should be changed a little bit because we kind of know that it is going to run a little hot. Maybe it has. I don't know. I don't know enough about these things. I honestly don't. I'm not an economist, so I don't really follow that stuff because it's fucking boring to me. I took it in college, and I hated myself for it because it was the most boring shit in the world. I had to cheat, and I had to cheat from other people and have other people help me because I was the stupidest person in the class. So with that being the case, I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to come out a bit hotter than maybe it does. If it doesn't, I think if it actually is around here and it comes in line, I think it's a nothing burger. Right? I think, but if it comes in a little bit hotter than this, I think you might see the markets kind of sell off a tad. And that's my call. And I'm sticking with it. But as far as the market is concerned, this is a pretty interesting area because, again, if you were actually to, and let's just get rid of this just to keep things clean, right? You kind of have this, taking out this, you kind of have this area of support. And then if you're actually going to draw a line, you got this up here. You got this area up here, which I'm going to just make another yellow line because just make it cleaner. You have this range that we really, if we're going to kind of get up in the next levels, we have to get up over, and it's close to R3 today. It's those 25s, 465s. And if we're really going to kind of get to the next level, we've only just barely kind of got back into these levels, and we've really just been chopping around. And so as you start zooming out, you'll start seeing more of what I'm explaining here in the NASDAQ. And that I do expect to see a ton of resistance up here. All barring everything coming out, right? A lot of econ data with these inflation numbers. All right. And so that's kind of where we're at today. So I'm not expecting much. I'm going to stay flat until after 8:30 and see where we go from there. I kind of think that your best trades today, again, barring what those numbers are, if they come in hot, we come in near 3%. I don't think the market's going to like that very much. We come in at 2.7, 2.8. I don't think the market's going to give a shit, and I think we just kind of meander. But as far as levels today, I think you maybe, if we didn't have these numbers coming out, you're probably definitely going to want to mark yesterday's highs, which are 25,265. $25,265 right here. We are kind of bouncing right around R1 today with the numbers at 8:30. Likely, I'm not even going to look at that, only because, again, with numbers coming at 8:30, we're either going to, this is kind of a pivot point right now, if you want to call it that, even though it is an R1. It's kind of a pivot point. We're either going to blast off from here or we're going to dump. Which brings us up to R2. R2, again, if we rally, that should be a good spot for a short. 25,353s. And the reason why I'm mentioning that, because even when I put on our little swing trader here thing, this was coming up yesterday. Why is it not coming up today? There was a level up here that was coming up yesterday. Was it on a 15-minute perhaps? Might have been on a 15-minute or a 1 hour. Okay, there it is. It is the 1 hour. I knew there was something up there. So we do have, and again, I'm going to move this down. we have these areas up here. And here's where I'm going to kind of hopefully not confuse you, but I'm going to flip over into the 1 hour over on this chart and put the levels on here for you. And you can see we are kind of at a bit of a resistance here. Right at R1. Again, I'm going to call this a pivot today because we've been chopping through this almost all night, all day and all night. All right. But again, a lot of resistance up here, a lot of things going on. We got an R3, 25,474s. Right? This line here actually goes back right all the way back to February pre-war. So those are kind of the pre-war highs there. And again, I think pretty significant area, in my opinion, if you're looking. So, you know, again, a number of things. And there's two here. Well, there's one up here at 25, the one I marked out, and which is R3. And then there's one right below it. So definitely be aware of that area today if we start to move to the upside and break out. We're likely to see some decent resistance up there. And to me, that quite possibly could be the trade of the day. And I will actually even go as far as being a real effing douchey and put a smiley face up here. And put a smiley face up there. All right, because that, again, that to me is kind of, I'm going to stick it over here because by the time, hopefully we hit that, it'll be around that time. But I'm, you know, and all kidding aside, I kind of like that area for sure. It's really setting up for a high probability. You know, again, one of those trades where don't take on a lot of risk, don't use a wide stop, don't be crazy. But if we do get up there, it does set up for a nice scalper, you know, and then look for it when it reverses. Don't be greedy. Don't look for it to make a whole huge retrace back down. You know, look for your 20 to 30 or so ticks and then get out of the way. And if you use multiples, you take one off at 30, you put one at break even and you let it run. There you go. I mean, that's it. That's the scoop there on the on NASDAQ. And then if we're looking for a downside trades, there's not, again, you know, we got that stinking candle there. It's kind of causing havoc. But you do have a couple levels that look interesting to the downside, right? I would mark out S1 25037s. You have S2 24962s. I hope we don't have to talk about 24962s, but if we do, we do. That is just what it is. And then, excuse me, yesterday's lows. Yesterday's lows are, and then you also, under yesterday's lows, you have this swing low down here, which is 24,928. Again, all of these things kind of lumping up together. And then we did have a good band of buyers come in here last time. Okay? So just some levels, and I really don't even want to talk about, because if we're talking about 23,978s, you know, all hell has broken loose again, and we're probably in a world of hurt. I hope I don't have to look at those. They're there. If you want to use that indicator, go ahead. Yeah, so that's where we're at on the NASDAQ. Looking at gold, gold was a bit of a pain in the arse yesterday, and we are looking at the 1 hour here on the gold. Again, let's get rid of this. And let's get rid of this. Just to make it clean. All right, and just so for your information, what I've been doing is, and when I take a trade, I've been actually putting in a little circle around. It hasn't been perfect, but because I don't trade, I'm not trading on TradingView. I'm using these other platforms, right? I'm trading in Tasty Trade, and I'm also trading in my two funded accounts here. So that's where I'm actually trading, but I use these charts because I just like them better. And so this is how I find my levels. So anyway, if we were to go into gold, we still, and this will be a 4 hour, and I'll readjust. We are kind of back, right? I've got my two magic lines here. I have this mark. This is kind of my ultimate target here in gold, like where I'm going to remain bullish. But we still got this going on. You know, and you can, I don't even want to go down here because that's probably a little too much, but you know, you just look even down here and we are driving up. And that's still intact even on the short term. And not to confuse everybody and get totally walked out. And then, as I said, now that we kind of breached this line, I'm actually going to go and I'm going to go ahead and, you know, I'm going to just lighten this thing up is what I'm going to do, because I don't want it really showing up as much, but I don't want it to go away. But now that we've actually like closed and now we're actually up over here, I like this. Again, we got to see, and I'm just going to do a dashed line there just so that it's, again, so it's still there, but it's subtle enough to where I can see it, but it's not getting in the way. But as long as we stay now above this and this becomes support, I think, again, we're in a, and I'll say again, we're in a spot where gold now is kind of in that phase where I think the NASDAQ and the equity markets are, where it is actually buy the dip instead of sell the rip. And I think gold is actually closer to the place at buy the dip right now than it's sell the rip. All right, and that's actually the 4 hour chart, and to me it looks extremely bullish, and I'm going to continue my bullish bias on it, quite candidly. So that is gold, and then if we go over into our new charts and gold, and then look at the, I'm going to look at the 5 minute here and look at some levels. I think we get a lot of resistance up here. This could possibly be, right? This has been a good short area the last couple times we were up here. We also have another area up here at 4,800. So quite possibly there could be, or there may have even been, a short opportunity up here already. I think the best options are up here in this area, this 47.90 area, just my opinion. Then down here, because it does look like there are a bit more buyers in that area down under here than up here. We kind of get into a little area where there's been a lot of selling, and then even when they've been able to get it up over 48, they haven't been able to hold it. Again, these are trades, folks. They're not, I'm not bequeathing these to my kids. I'm overall still bullish in gold, but just from these levels that have been printing, I'm looking for trades. So, and from the downside and from the other side, there's not really much here that I can see. I mean, there could possibly, it's not showing up here, but to me, this area down here quite possibly could be an extremely nice spot for a long if we retrace back into here. And this is where we kind of putted around in here last night. This is where we kind of jerked around. Most of the, was it there or was it here? No, it was back here. It was back here. I'm keep forgetting. I'm looking at the 5 minute. But this area down here doesn't look like a bad spot for a possible long if we are to dip back down in there. And I am just going to manually mark that one off. All right, and so that may be an area for us to take a look as well. But even overnight, all these areas were respected for bounces. Now, were you able to kind of catch the whole move? No, but they were all decent enough bounces and buy the dip sort of situations here in the overnight that I wouldn't put it past for it to happen again. There's another spot, to me, looks very interesting down here. And it's about 477, 78 and a half. So about 10 points away from where we are now. And then obviously I'm going to be looking at a short in this area. Up here. And I always like to just change the color. Just so it's different, so I know I drew that in. But you also have this as well, could quite possibly be an area to kind of short in here. You can see there was net sellers in here, and it's actually a little bit below this area here. So that's really it, though, as far as like gold. I'm not really going to be looking much outside of those few spots. Obviously, if you're using this, right, I'm going to be using, this area and as well up here as another area of resistance, 4800s. But, very easily gold could plow through here because it has been doing a really good job at blowing through some areas of resistance, or that areas that we've been perceived as being resistance. All right. And then we go out a little further, and then the NASDAQ just hit something. Let's see what the NASDAQ hit. All right, so something came out. Something happened. So likely crude oil. Did crude oil spike? No. Let's see. Something news hit. There's no question about it. It's the only reason why that. No. Wow. No red liners here. So I have no idea what happened, but definitely something happened because this wouldn't have moved. The NASDAQ would not be moving this fast down at this hour for no apparent reason. So I don't know what the news was. I'm not seeing anything on the Communist News Channel. I don't know. That's kind of weird. That's kind of weird to me. And so we did take out those highs, yesterday's highs on the NASDAQ. And no real... Anyway, back to gold. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at on gold here. And I think it's very weird that you have the NASDAQ kind of falling there and you have gold rallying a little bit. So again, I don't know. I'm seeing dollar weakness. So who knows? You know, cats and dogs fighting, whatever. And that's pretty much all I got as far as like macroeconomics crap. As far as like crude oil's crude oil. I mean, you know, you trade it at your own peril. I don't even really want to look at it because it's a goddamn mess. And then I'll get back to some trades that I had done. I talked a few here. Let me see. I talked about CoreWeave and stacking the iron condors. So here's how I did it, right? Here's iron condor 1 is a 55.65, 125, 130. Here's a 60.70, 115, 120. And I'm likely to put one more on, which possibly will be maybe the half, like a 67.5 type of thing. And as I mentioned with CoreWeave, the nice thing about this one is it does have the $0.50 strikes or $2.50 strikes. So I could literally do like a 67.5, 62.5. And then on this side, I'm going to have to find something $5 wide, but that's in maybe a little further out. Like I actually like selling these out here a little further on the call side, and then on this side doing these here, which would be this and this, right? Only bringing in $1, but again, I'm stacking these and I'm doing this as a position, right? Good probability of profit, blah, 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 blah. You know the drill. Right, you look at this thing on the curve, and again, you got a good breadth of range in here. And why the hell is this doing that? I have no idea. That is whacked. But anyway, that is kind of what it looks like, and these are my other positions, obviously. And then, again, I'm building this position in here that's, you know, a stack. I call it stacked iron condor strategy, where you're playing a range of a stock, right? You're not bullish, you're not bearish, and you're playing a range of a stock that you just think is going to be pretty much a dead stick. And that's how I'm playing that one. So I got that one on. Also talked about the same type of strategy in CCJ. I'm in this one, right? This 85, 90, 130, 135. And then I also talked about the GDX, which I finally ended up doing. This GDX as well. I'm playing the range. This one has some great volatility, but I will tell you the issue with GDX, at least my issue with GDX overall, is volatility trades in this underlying have generally been never good for me. And so far, so good with this one. It's working out. So I am happy about that. It's working out so far. I mean, it's not like it's great. I think it's up like $10. Oh, no, it's up $50. But, you know, this is another one where I may actually step into yet another layer on this trade. I'm likely to, on pullbacks, so when it does kind of go down, I'm likely to step into some puts. And the nice thing about this, this ETF though, overall, and what's nice about it is pretty liquid. You can see there are, you know, a lot of open interest, 14K, 4K, 1.9, 1.9, 6K, right? Some of these are probably not, these kind of have stuff, but 160, 15K, right? That's just on the put side. Again, go up to the call side, same thing, 32K at 90, right? So a lot of liquidity in here, and it's not, it's normally relatively easy to trade. And they have dollar wide options. And why is that important? It's important for a lot of folks who are new to this game and don't want to risk a lot of money and don't really know, not everybody out there is willing to risk on trades like this. I'm willing to risk $300 to $350 to make, or usually about $300 to make $100 or $125. A lot of people are not comfortable with that. And so if you're not comfortable with that, do a little dollar wide. You can do, just for example, I can sell a 90.89 put. Now it's $18. Or if you want to do an iron condor, just sell this little iron condor and then come up here and maybe just sell this one. And again, this is just an example. And all right, look, it's only got a 40% pop, but look, you're risking $40, folks. You're risking 40. You're risking 60. You're risking 60 to make 40. All right, and this is how you play. Because size is what destroys accounts. It's always going to be size that destroys. So you could do a tiny little trade in here. Test it out. You lose $60. Who gives a shit? You probably spent $60 on a freaking on a diner run for you and your wife. Last time I was at the diner, it was over $40. It was almost 45 plus the tip, because I usually give those girls a decent tip because the girls are working the diner. They work their asses off. I usually give a $10 or $15 tip. So, you're talking $50, $50, $60. So there you go. And, well worth it. And so it's ETFs like this that have these dollar wides like this are great vehicles to trade. If you haven't done options, these are what you kind of should be playing with. Just because, again, the dollar wides, and you can keep it small, and you don't have to go crazy. And because size is what kills. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm doing here, and this one as well. And if I were to pull this up on here, where is it? This one, and then I go over to here in ETFs. It is in here. In here. This is a GDX, right? So I'm playing this range personally. I'm trying to sell. I'm selling calls. And look, I try to keep this shit, folks, as simple as possible, because to me, there's too many people out there just overcomplicating this so much that, and it's not about, probability of this and blah, 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 blah. Like, you have to be a fucking math student. Like, no, it's, it's more, honestly, the more that you actually look at it, folks, the more you start to say, well, gee, it makes sense. It's not that's some big fucking math equation. It makes sense, right? You have a better chance of playing this outside of where it's traded in the last, and for almost the whole year, longer than a year, almost going back to December of last year. You got a better chance of picking where it isn't going to be, that it'll be at least lower than 115, but higher than 175. You got a higher chance of picking that over the 50-50 shot. Is it going to go up or down? It's common sense, really. It's not, and if you put it in that perspective, folks, it's not a big fucking math equation. And that's why I say always look at the chart. Don't just look at the, the probability and all this other shit. Just look at things like, look at the chart and just look at what makes sense. Common sense. Right? The chart's telling you sell calls over this, sell puts under here. There you go. And then, one thing that is nice about Tasty Trade is it does put this bar in the middle. This brown bar is the expected move based on the volatility, right? So this is the expected move in May, for example, and anything outside of that brown bar will be what's in the expected move. And so your chances of being right outside of this expected move the probabilities are going to be higher. Now, I happen to go out further than that. This first line is a 1 standard deviation, which a 1 standard deviation move usually brings you around a 20 delta, 20 to 15, it depends, but mostly about 20. Same thing on the put side, right? That's a 1 standard deviation move. Now you see the deltas can be different based on skew, right? So right now, based on this, there's a call skew, which is obvious, right? Because gold's just been a beast. So there's call skew. There's always call skew most of the time, unless the stock's a total piece of shit, like Oracle probably right now, since it's a piece of shit and I owned it and I got a sign, it's got put skew. But so anyway, with that being said, they actually outline this for you and then confirm it on the chart. Just don't go by this. Confirm it on the chart and then say, where's going to, all right. And again, it's not a matter of being a fucking, the quadratic formula to try and figure out. It's common sense. Oh yeah, now I see it. $12 expected move in May based on options. Thing hasn't gone up over 116 in, 8 months, whatever it is, 6, 7 months, 8 months, whatever. Hasn't gone down below 75. Okay. And that's it. And then manage accordingly. And then look, you're going to be right. Sometimes you can be wrong. Just be willing to accept that you can be wrong. All right. So anyway, that's it. That's really all I got. I'm not expecting to do much. As you can see in my funded Top Step account, I'm down $24 last night. Gold kind of got me a couple times. I did fight back. I was down a lot more than that. I was down quite a lot, actually. I was down over $100, and I kind of fought myself back to down 24. So anyway, and then in my new Lucid account, I really haven't traded it much because I'm kind of focused on the Top Step. I'm likely to start trading this more so next week. I got a whopping, I think my profit in there, I got like, I made like one trade. Excuse me. I made like one trade and I think I made like $30. So I'm new to this one, and this is the Express. This is that Express funded or direct to funding. I highly recommend this one. And I'm actually going to go and show this. And I don't get paid by these people, folks. So don't think I get... If you choose, look, it's not for everybody. Oh, wow. Did they get rid of it? Oh, no. If you go Lucid Direct, you can get the 50K account for a discount. It's normally $520. I did get the discount. I paid $364 for it. You're going to get a direct to funded. You are straight to funded. There's no fucking evaluation. There's no nothing. So you don't have to go and make $3,000 and then get stuck and set to zero again and then fucking basically start all over again. You are direct to funded. Now there is rules, right? There is rules. You got the drawdown rule and all this other shit. You got to have at least 5 days, and obviously you have to be profitable in there. So, to me, that's no big deal. And consistency rule of 20% is just I mean, and so you can't, for me, for someone who's been through these before, I do not want to go through the evaluation again on an account. To me, I just it's a waste of my time only because, not that I've passed everyone. Look, I've had a couple of resets, but I have a full-time. I have a job like that I go to, and I don't want to spend 2.5 months grinding through getting an evaluation to get funded. I just want to let me get right to funded. And I'm going to trade it like it's real money. I mean, again, I've been doing this before. I've done it. I'm doing it with my own money. I'm well aware of this. And so this feature, I think, on these prop firm is awesome. And so I'll see how it goes, right? I mean, I'm hoping I can keep it, I hope I can stay profitable in there. I mean, anything can happen. Doesn't matter who you are. But we'll see how that one goes. I'm going to try doing that one next week. All right. And so that's all I got. We can get out of that. And we'll see how things go today. I think it's going to be a pretty, I don't know, got about 15 minutes until the numbers. Again, I'm not expecting much. But anything can happen. So have a good one.